A very good evening. I'm Richa Sachdeva, a part of NBC team, and I welcome you all. NBC Advisors Private Limited happens to be a one-stop shop for all kind of advisory services, such as strategical entry for doing business in India and overseas, organizational development, recruitment consulting, business administration, and payroll, etc. Today's session is on PLI scheme for IT hardware. PLI scheme is the government's initiative on the incentives to boost domestic manufacturing and attract large investments in the value chain of IT hardware, as it adds the value in exports and economy. The government's objective is to build a strong component chain with the help of this scheme, boosting domestic manufacturing to attract large investments in the value chain of IT hardware, and also to attract large-scale setups in order to make India the manufacturing export hub. To talk about the detailed insights in this, we have Mr. Shambhu Thakur, a chartered accountant with personal desire and professional enthusiasm to excel in the profession of accounting, assurance, taxation, finance, and business advisory with independent and transparent professional conviction. We'll be glad to answer all your questions towards the end of the session. So, Mr. Thakur, please continue from here. Mr. Thakur, you're on mute. Please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Thank you, Risha. Thank you for your introduction and organizing a webinar on production link PLI scheme initiated by the government of India. And especially we are going to talk about the PLI scheme for IT hardware manufacturer today. So government has taken the initiatives to bring a boost in manufacturing sector, and the government has approved PLI scheme for 13 sectors in different segments, different sectors covering the large segments of products. And a PLI scheme for IT hardware is one among them. So government has notified the PLI scheme for IT hardware in March 2021, and the application window is going on, and the application window is open till 30th April 2021, and it may further be extended. So we have come here to discuss the PLI scheme, what the PLI scheme is all about for IT hardware manufacturers. We will discuss here today the eligibility criteria to apply under the PLI scheme for IT hardwares, and what are the threshold limit, and what are the process and procedures there to apply to get incentives under the scheme. So before we discuss about the process, procedures and the limitations, threshold criteria for the PLI scheme of IT hardware manufacturer, I would like to introduce, and I would like to have a review of the production linked incentive scheme initiated by the government of India in last 1 year. The government initiated a scheme first in April 2020 for large-scale electronics manufacturer. The scheme was introduced to give a boost in manufacturing sector of electronics products, and firstly it was introduced for mobile phones and components. And by the end of the year 2020, government brought out approval for the 10 more sectors, and government had proposed to give 13 in PLI scheme for 13 sectors. So government is covering the large scale, and the PLI schemes aims to give incentives on incremental sales of products of the goods being manufactured in India. So government wants to give incentives under the scheme on the goods manufactured in India. The scheme aims to give incentives to existing manufacturing unit as well as the new manufacturing unit to be set up in India. So not only the scheme is going to encourage the local companies to expand their existing manufacturing capacities, but also to invite foreign companies to set up new units in India. So the scheme is PLI scheme is as a part of the Make in India campaign and Atmanirbhar Bharat Self-Reliant India campaign of the government of India. the government expects an increase in the production by 520 billion US dollar in next 5 years. And by so increased productions, the government wants to increase the manufacturing sector's contribution to country's GDP up to a level of 25%. It's currently 16 to 17%, but the government wants to bring it up to 25%, manufacturing sector's contributions. The main motto of the scheme is to invest in India, manufacture in India, and then to sell the products in India and outside India in international and global market, with brand in India to made in India brand products, and to capture the opportunity available in international market, and also to fulfill the increasing demand of India, especially in electronics products. The PLI scheme is going to incentivize the manufacturers in India who has a manufacturing units in India, and the incentives is available only for the specified goods under the different sectors covered in different PLI scheme notified or approved by the government of India. The PLI scheme was initially initiated as a part of national policy on electronics, and it was initiated to give 4 to 6% incentives to electronics manufacturing companies, and especially for mobile phones and components when it was introduced in April 2020. And later on in Union Budget 2021, the government has budgeted an amount of rupees 1.97 lakhs crore rupees, approximately 26 billion US dollar, to be given as incentives to manufacturing companies in next 5 years. So this is the budgeted amount of incentives that government wants to give to manufacturing sectors companies under the different PLI scheme for different sectors. The scheme is available for existing manufacturer as well as the new manufacturing unit that can be set up in India, and new manufacturing unit can be for one unit or for more than one unit spread across over India, any locations. So the scheme is available for new unit as well as the existing manufacturing unit. And the incentive under the scheme is available subject to the minimum investment requirement and minimum sales requirement during the period of the schemes. Further, we see that the scheme is going to generate more employment. The government wants to generate more and more employment through the different PLI schemes, and also to cut down the country's reliance on import from other countries, especially for the electronics product. The country's consumption is dependent on the import from the other countries. So the government wants to cut down the reliance and put a check on the outflow of foreign currency from out of India. The incentive is available over the period of 4 to 6 years. On an average, we can say the scheme is for 5 years. And the application, the incentives to get is through certain process of application and approval. Application and approval with the competent authority, the project management agency appointed by the different ministry for different sectors. So there is application and approval process of the application to participate in the scheme to get the benefits. And those applications and approval are subject to the eligibility of the applicant, and then application within the time limit, and then minimum investment requirement, and the sale of the incremental sales of the products, specified goods under the different PLI scheme. So we are going to discuss today especially about the IT hardware products. How the PLI scheme have emerged over last 1 year. Over last 1 year, we see that in April 2020, it was for mobile phones and components. Then in July, the government notified it for the pharmaceutical ingredients, the pharmaceutical materials, and then in October 2020, it was notified for the medical devices. And in September 2020, the government revised its procurement policy to make in India content mandatory in government procurement. And later on, by the end of the year 2020, in November 2020, the government approved for 10 key sectors covering large segments of products to bring under the PLI scheme to incentivize the manufacturers to set up or to expand the manufacturing unit and make India a manufacturing hub, and also to market international market with made in India brand products in international market. So the PLI in IT hardware is especially for 4 types of products, that is for laptop, tablet, PCs and servers. So the scheme is going to cover the IT hardware. PLI scheme is going to cover 4 types of products that are laptops, tablets, PCs and servers. And the scheme is going to bring the scheme is going to incentivize the manufacturers and bring large investment in company. The government expect an investment of rupees 2,700 crore over the period of 4 years by introduction of PLI scheme in IT hardwares. And the government want to incentivize the manufacturers so that the investors bring more investment in India and then set up here the manufacturing unit and start producing of the electronics hardware like laptop, tablets, PCs and servers. And the incentives the scheme is going to offer incentives of 4%, 3%, 2% and 1%. So the 4% to 2 or 1% incentives are available over the period of 4 years. In initial years, the rate of incentive is higher, but in later years, the rate of incentives are lower. And the incentive is available on incremental sales. What does qualify for incremental sale? Incremental sales means sales of the specified products over the sale of base years. So that qualifies for incremental sales, and incentive is calculated on the basis of incremental sales. The government has budgeted an amount of rupees 7,350 crore rupees. But out of this 50 crore rupees, 25 crore is for administrative cost and 7,325 crore is to be given as incentives to manufacturers over the period of 4 years. And the period of a scheme has started with effect from 1st April 2021. So anybody who is eligible a company who is eligible to make application under the scheme can check with the qualification criteria, eligibility criteria, and then start on the process to get the incentives available under the schemes. The government expects an incremental production of 3.2 lakhs crore, 26 lakhs crores over the period of next year. And out of this 3.26 lakhs crores, the government expects almost 75%, 2.45 lakhs crores export out of India, and to market in international market with made in India IT hardware products. So not only the government wants to, the scheme is going to benefit in Indian market for Indian consumptions, but also to market the global market with brand in India products, made in India products. And the India is going to be global hub for IT hardware manufacturing, and the export is going to increase by 20 to 25% by 2025. Not only the IT, India is going to hub for the IT hardware, hub for IT hardware manufacturers, but India is going to position itself as a electronic system design and manufacturing. And under this scheme, the government has made mandatory for the manufacture of components of the IT hardware. Assembly of the components of the IT hardware in India, it has been made mandatory from the second year onwards. That's why the India is going to position itself as a global hub for electronic system design and manufacturing. Going forward, by 2025, we can see that India is going to be electronic ecosystem market here in India. And also the scheme is going to generate the more employment, and the government expects, the scheme expects an incremental employment generation of 1,80,000 over the period of 4 years, including skilled and semi-skilled peoples. And also to compensate the disabilities of the existing units of manufacturing, existing units in electronics IT hardware. And the market size of the electronics hardware is going to be 26 lakhs crores by 2025. How the market in India has grown for electronics hardware. The electronics hardware market has grown over the period of 5 years at the rate of 23% compound annual growth rate, at the rate of 23% over the last 5 years. So in 2014-15, the market was for 1,90,366 crores, but that has come up to 5,33,550 crores. So the market has increased. The market has increased rapidly, and it's a 23% CAGR, and expected to grow rapidly and to reach at the 26 lakhs crores by 2025 for electronics hardware. For electronics hardware products, we can see some of the market size for some of the products in laptop, tablet, servers, that has been during the financial year 1920. In 1920, there was a demand of 75 lakh units for laptops worth rupees 33,950 crore. Similarly, for tablets, it was 24 lakhs units worth rupees 3,500 crore. And the for servers, the server market is going to increase rapidly in coming days at the requirement to make data locally saved here in India. Initially in 1920, it was for 2 lakh units worth rupees 9,100 crore. And we are going to see the potential opportunity in India for this hardware product in coming days. So what are the potential opportunity? We see that till the date there has been very low penetration per 1,000 people as compared to other countries. We see India only 15 people is using out of 1,000 people. The personal computer is used by only 15 people out of thousands people as compared to US and China. And also the country's requirement for IT hardware, mainly of this 4 products are dependent from outside India, and we are importing almost 6 to 7 billion US dollars worth of electronics hardware in India. So there is a potential opportunity and significant opportunity to manufacture the IT hardware and product in India, and to fulfill the requirement of the India, and not only in India, and also to market in international market with IT hardware product made in India. Now we see the government has planned, how the government has planned the allocations of its incentive. So the total incentive available is 7,325, and it is available over the period of 4 years. In initial years, incentives are less, but the rate is higher. But in later years, the incentives are high, big amount of incentives, but the rate is lower. So we see in first, second, third, fourth, beginning from 1st April 2021, the incentive for the first year, second year, third year, fourth year, and the incentive amount is 720 crore rupees, 1,305 crore rupees, 1,820 crore rupees, and 3,480 crore rupees over the period of 4 years. 4 years. The government has planned this much of amount to be disbursed as incentive to the manufacturing company, eligible manufacturing companies. Not all the manufacturing companies, only the companies who fulfills the eligibility criteria to qualify under the scheme, the incentive will be given to only those companies. So rate of incentives are 4%, 3%, 2%, and 2 and 1% over the period of 4 years. There are 2 rates in 4th year, 2% and 1%, based on the qualitative criteria, the assembly requirement of the components of hardware in India. So there are 2 rates in 4th year, and computation of the incentive is very simple. Computation of the incentive is very simple because it is based on the incremental sales of products, specified products under the scheme during the period of the scheme over the base years. For example, we can see in base years is financial year 1920. So for example, if in financial year 2020, 2021, 2022, a company has a turnover of specified goods of rupees 120 crore, and that in base year, that is financial year 1920, the company has turnover of sale of those specified products was for rupees 50 crore only. So the company has made an incremental sales of rupees 70 crore, and on that 70 crore amounts, the rate of incentive is 4%. So total incentive available is 2.8 crore rupees. So a company has to compare its turnover during the period of the scheme that has started from 1st April 2021, and if it has incremental sales of product, then it can go to claim for the benefits. So to claim the benefits, first of all, a company has to check, first of all, whether company qualifies to make the application under the scheme. So this is the qualification criteria, and other than qualification criteria, there are threshold limits of incremental investment, then incremental sales, to check a company whether a company will be eligible to claim for the benefit or not. So first criteria is the qualification criteria, and qualification criteria is based on the consolidated global manufacturing revenue of the company. So the scheme specifies the what limit of a company can make application under the scheme for its approval. And for this, the scheme has classified companies into two categories: domestic companies and IT hardware companies. IT hardware companies are those companies that are not domestic companies. So then question arises, which companies are domestic companies? So domestic companies are those companies the share capital of which is owned by resident Indian citizen. Resident Indians is a more than 50% share capital of company should be owned by the resident Indian citizen. Then a company would qualify as a domestic company, and then he has to comply for lower turnover requirement. And also the company has classified the products, the turnover limit, based on the two types of products, one for electronics hardware and another for IT hardware. IT hardware means product is specified under the scheme. So specified under the schemes, the hardware are those that are laptops, tablets, personal computers and servers. So if a company has a turnover of more than 10 crore rupees in case of domestic company, if it has a turnover of rupees more than 10 crore from these four products, specified products, then a company qualifies to make an application under the scheme. Similarly, a company may be producing not only these four products, but it would be manufacturing other products as well, just like mobile phones, telecom products, including these IT hardware products and sub-assemblies and components thereof. So even if a company is not have a turnover of from these four products and it has turnover of more than 10 crore rupees from the manufacturing of electronics hardware, including those IT hardware, then that company qualifies to make application under the scheme. Similarly, in case of other IT hardware companies, the limit is of 5,000 crore rupees, that is 685 million US dollar approximately, and rupees 10,000 crore rupees, that is 1,370 million US dollar in case of all electronics hardware products. And the consolidated global manufacturing revenue would include the revenue of all its group companies. A company may have the subsidiary company, associate company, so its revenue, the revenue will be calculated on consolidated basis. So the company's consolidated manufacturing revenue will be accounted to check with the eligibility criteria and qualification criteria of the company, whether a company is eligible to make application under the scheme or not. Further, the base year of revenue to check with the revenue will be that of the financial year 2020, because the financial year 2021 is not going very well and it has not been very well due to COVID situation. So the financial year 2020 has been taken as the base year for revenue checking and 4 qualification criteria. Again, after the qualification criteria, suppose a company has made the qualification criteria and it has applied and made application with the competent authority, and then it has got the approval. But how can get a company the benefit under the scheme? So benefit is based on certain threshold limit criteria, limit of the incremental investment, and then limit of the incremental sales of products. Then also there is localization criteria, the invest value criteria. So these all are the eligibility criteria to check before a company apply for the incentive under the scheme. So incremental investment, a company is required to make incremental investment. So what investment would qualify? Shall the investment made before 2021, 31st March 2021 qualify for the scheme? No. So only the investment made after 31st March 2021 with effect from 1st April 2021 would qualify as an incremental investment for the purpose. And also a company has to arrive at a company has to put the minimum investment to make an application for the benefits under the scheme, application for the assistance available from under the scheme. In case of domestic company, the requirement of cumulative investment in the year 1, 2, 3, 4 is that of 4 crore, 8 crore, 14 crore, 20 crore rupees. So these are the requirement of cumulative investment. Suppose a company has invested rupees 4 crore in first year. So that company has to invest only 4 crore in the second years, and his cumulative investment will reach up to 8 crore rupees. So a company has to meet the cumulative investment requirement in each year. And also for the other IT hardware company, the cumulative investment requirement is that of 50 crore, 150 crore, 300 crore and 500 crore over the period of 4 years. So total cumulative investment requirement in case of domestic company over the period of 4 years is that of 20 crore rupees, and in case of other IT hardware companies, the total cumulative investment requirement is that of 500 crore rupees over the period of 4 years. And there is a requirement of incremental sales because the calculation of incentive is based only on the incremental sales. If a company has made the incremental sales, then it is able to claim for the benefits. And if the company is not going to meet the criteria of incremental sales, then a company shall not be eligible to make the application for the benefits. It may be that a company is not eligible in 1 year, but it may be eligible in another year. So in that year in which the company is not eligible and it has not made the limit of incremental sales, threshold limit of incremental sales, then in that year the company would not be eligible to claim the benefits. But in next year, when the company is eligible and has made the limit of incremental sales, then company would be eligible to claim for the benefits. In case of domestic companies, the incremental sales requirement is that of 50 crore, 100 crore, 200 crore, 300 crore over the period of 4 years. In 1 year, second year, year 2, year 3, year 4, in such type. In case of other companies, the incremental sales requirement is that of 1,000 crore, 2,500 crore, 5,000 crore and 10,000 crore respectively in year 1, 2, 3 and 4. So these are the requirement of incremental sales. So only a company who has met the requirement of incremental sales, then a company would be eligible to claim benefit under the scheme. Next is the invoice value criteria. Invoice value criteria is not applicable in case of domestic company, and in case of other IT hardware company, it is also not applicable in case of personal computers and servers. All in PCs, the invoice value criteria is not applicable. In case of servers, invoice value criteria is not applicable. So what is the invoice value criteria? The scheme says that a company, other IT hardware manufacturing company would be eligible to claim benefit for only those invoices in respect of laptops. The invoice value per unit of that products exceeds rupee 30,000, is equal to or more than 30,000 rupees. Similarly, in case of tablets, the invoice value per unit of the product should be equal to or more than 15,000 rupees. Only that invoices would be eligible to claim for the revenue. So these are the invoice value criteria to check when we make an application for the claim of benefits. Then there is a localization criteria. The government, the scheme is going to make India electronic ecosystem, and the government is putting pressures to make all products of the IT hardware in India only. So the government has made it mandatory. The scheme has made it mandatory to manufacture the parts of the IT hardware in India, and it has made mandatory the assembly of PCB with effect from second year. In first year, there is no requirement of assembly, but in second year onwards, there is a requirement of assembly of PCB, printed circuit board, to be used in these 4 types of products. So the PCB assembly has been made mandatory from second year onwards. In first year, the assembly requirement of subcomponents is not applicable, but with effect from second year, the PCB assembly is requirement. With effect from 1st April 2020, not only the PCB assembly would require, but requirement of battery pack. Assembly of the battery packs would be required with effect from 1st April 2020. Similarly, in case of with effect from 1st April 2024, since this is the last year of the scheme, so there are 2 rates available, 2% and 1%. And the rate is the difference because of the assembly requirement. So with effect from 1st April 2024, the assembly requirement for the PCB, battery packs, power adapter, and cabinet and chassis would be required to be assembled locally in India only. Then the company would qualify for 2% incentive. Otherwise, the company would qualify for 1% incentive. So these are the localization criteria of the sub-assemblies of the IT hardware products. So one can say is that whether a company is eligible to claim benefit to N numbers. N number means any number of sales a company can claim for the benefits. No, the scheme has put a ceiling limits on the incremental sales of goods that will be eligible to be claimed as benefit for the purpose under this scheme. So in case of domestic companies, the maximum incremental sales is eligible up to 300 crore rupees, 600 crore rupees, 1,600 crore rupees, and 2,400 crore rupees respectively in year 1, 2, 3, and 4. So these are the maximum ceiling limits of incremental sales over which a company can claim the benefit. If a company has incremental sales of over this amount, then a company would not be eligible to claim benefit for such incremental sales. So the calculation of incentive is very simple, but before we go to claim the incentive, we have to check and meet certain eligibility criteria, and there are certain process of application process, approval process. The scheme requires that the PLI scheme for IT hardware is eligible and available only for a company registered in India. So a company registered in India is only eligible to claim the benefit. Not any other forms of business would be eligible. So a foreign company, if wants to set up a manufacturing unit in India and participate in the scheme, then the foreign companies first has to set up a company in India, a registered company registered under the Companies Act. Then the company should manufacture the specified product. What are the specified product? Specified product are the tablets, laptops, personal computers, and servers. So these 4 products are eligible under this scheme. Then we have discussed the eligibility criteria of minimum investment and incremental sales. And when we meet all these criteria, then there is a application and approval process. The application for the claim of benefits under the scheme. The benefit can be claimed during the scheme of quarterly, half yearly, or yearly basis. Though incentive can be claimed half yearly, yearly, and quarterly basis. The scheme is available, benefits is available for such periods. And also we have to check the eligibility criteria of the investment. One can say whether all expenditure made would qualify as investment or not. Now, all expenditure are not eligible to qualify as investment under the scheme. Only the capital expenditure would qualify as investment and would be counted for the purpose of incremental investments. So expenditure in plant, machinery, equipment, and associated utilities that are to be capitalized would be eligible to be counted as incremental investment. And also the capital expenditure on research and development, expenditure income in transfer of text and technology, and other capital expenditure that is to be capitalized in books of accounts would be eligible to be counted as incremental investment for the scheme. Some expenditure may be there, just purchase of inventory, purchase of raw material, other expenditures that are not to be capitalized. It would not be, those expenditure would not be counted as incremental investment. Also, one thing is to be noted that investment in land and building is not to be accounted as incremental investment. So expenditure incurred, capital expenditure incurred to be counted as incremental investment would be except that of land and building and those in the nature of capital expenditures. So after seeing that whether investment has been made, and also it needs to calculate the incremental sales, what does qualify the incremental sales. The incremental sales will be net of return and refunds and taxes. So net sales is to be accounted. Net sales is to be accounted year after year to meet the threshold limit, whether we are meeting the threshold limit or not, and also for the purpose of incentives under the scheme. And then calculation of claims. So these are the eligibility requirement to check before we make an application with the authority for a claim of benefits. And then there is certain process. There are certain process to get the application checked and applied before the authorities. So application is through certain process. First of all, we have to check whether a company is going to meet the qualification criteria with its consolidated global manufacturing revenue, and if it meets the criteria in which year and has the limit, then it may check whether the company is proposing to set up manufacturing unit in India, and then it is going to set up manufacturing unit and have incremental investment to such an extent and make incremental sales. So first of all, the process is the application for approval under the scheme. So application, as we discussed in the beginning of the webinar, that the application window is open till 30th April. So a company can check the eligibility criteria and start making process, start on to make applications to get approval under the scheme. The application is to be made for the approval first, and the application is to be made with project management agency. The project management agency is the nodal agency appointed by the respective secretariat of ministry, and then the project management agency is authorized to receive the application, acknowledge the applications, and then check and examine the applications whether it's complete in all respects. If the application is not complete in all respects, then the project management agency will give 10 more days time to fulfill all the requirement and documents and give all the information as may be required by the project management agency. And if the application is complete in all respects, then the project management agency will acknowledge the application and will issue the acknowledgement number within 15 days from the date of application. So issuing the acknowledgement is not that your application has been approved and then you will be eligible to claim for the benefits. So once the application is accepted by project management agency, then project management agency recommend with the competent authority and a group of secretariats, expected group of secretariats, and then they determine over the what should be the baseline and investment, what should be the baseline for investment and sale of manufactured goods, and then they issue the approval letter to the eligible companies determining the baseline for investment and then baseline for sale of manufactured goods. And also, once a company receives the approval from the project management agency, and then it has to check whether the company is eligible and it has reached out to the eligibility threshold criteria of incremental investment and incremental sales, and then it can make application. If it is going to meet the criteria of incremental investment and incremental sales, then it can make application for the benefits under the scheme, and application can be done on the basis of quarterly basis, half yearly and yearly basis. And then there is a time limit for disbursement of claims. A company can make only application for disbursement of claims up to 9 months from the end of the respective financial years. So 9 months period has been given to make latest application for the disbursement of incentives. So the controlling authority are the project management agency, empowered group of committee, and competent authority. The project management agency has been here entitled to receive the application, issue the acknowledgement, receive, examine the applications, appraise the application, and then recommend for its approval. Also, the project management is responsibility is to check with the eligibility criteria and the application for the claim of benefits. Empowered group of committee consists of the secretariat and the chairman of Niti Aayog, and the committee has been authorized, entitled to monitor the scheme, to monitor the budgeted amount of the incentives by the government, and then take the decision from time to time in respect of the scheme. And also the competent authorities, there only the incentives final approval is to be given by the Ministry of Finance Expenditure Department. So we see the scheme is going to benefit in both ways. The scheme is going to benefit in both ways, and that is going to be win-win situation for the government of India, and also for the manufacturing industry, manufacturing the IT hardware, specified IT hardware, because due to the increased production of the IT hardware, the cost per unit is going to be reduced. So the industry is going to gain not only due to the increased production, their cost per unit is going to be lower, and then also the industry is going to gain the cash assistance from the government in the form of the PLI incentives. So the industry is going to gain in both ways, and also the government is going to have incremental productions, then export outside India, not only to fulfill the requirement of India, and then the government is going to put a check on the outflow of foreign currency from India that are expended for the import of IT hardware products in India. So the government is also going to gain from this scheme, and government expects and revenue of rupees 16,000 approximately from the direct tax and indirect tax due to such incremental productions and sale of the products. And also the government is going to have an incremental investment of 2,700 crore rupees for under this scheme. And also a company who is going to set up the manufacturing unit in India can enjoy and maximize the worth of low cost resources available in India. So key points to be noted is that application window is open till 30th April, and it may also further expanded by the government as per there may be the requirement by checking. And the functional guidelines has been issued. Earlier it was not issued. It has recently been issued on 15th April. So online application can be made for examination and its appraisal, and any company if eligible can check with the eligibility criteria, and can proceed with to make an application for application approval first. First, the online window is open. If the online window is not working, offline application can also be made. The base where for the computation of incremental sales and also for the computation of consolidated global manufacturing revenue for qualification criteria would be financial year 1920. And as we have already discussed, the incentives are available during the year as well, and it can be a claim for the incentives can be made on the quarterly, half yearly, and yearly basis, but not after 9 months from the end of the respective financial year. Thank you. The scheme is going to have a larger impact on Indian manufacturing sector for IT hardware product, and the scheme is going to have a larger impact, and there is a significant opportunity and potential market for the IT hardware manufacturer in India. And thank you for joining you all. And in case you need any assistance, then you can let us know that. And this over to Richa. Richa, are you available?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Thakur, for sharing those insights with us. We have a question from Mr. Rajesh Kumar. So I'm allowing him to speak to you directly. 1 second.
Hello.
Yeah, Mr. Kumar, you can speak to Mr. Thakur now.
Hi, Mr. Thakur. This is Rajesh, and I am starting up my electronic EMS factory, which is based out in Rajasthan. And the project cost is around 4 crore as of now, where I am doing the assembly, SMT process and MI process, which is a manual insertion. Can I apply in this scheme?
I think his voice is not coming to me. Richa?
I'll read out the question for you, Mr. Thakur. Can you hear me?
Yes, I am hearing you, but not Mr. Rajesh Rakesh.
Read it out for him. He's asking that he's setting up EMS factory for smart modules, which includes SMT lines and manual insertion. So he's got a loan from state government already, and his question is if he can apply under this scheme. Production has not yet started, and it is expected to begin by end of June.
Yes, production is not criteria to make the application. Only once you make the application, you have to specify that how much production you are going to make over the period of 4 years, in coming next 4 years. So production has not started yet, is not a criteria to make application for the approval of the application, and to check with eligibility whether you are eligible to apply for the application or not. So whether you have started manufacturing yet or not is not a criteria. You have to check the another criteria of consolidated global manufacturing, and if you are going to fulfill that, you can make the applications. And manufacturing of goods and selling is the criteria to claim benefits under the scheme. So if you have not started yet, you can start it later on, but till then you can make the application for its approval.
Okay, can I add a few query? Can you hear me? Hello.
Mr. Kumar, you can speak. I'll pass on your question to him.
Yeah. Can you please confirm?
Hello.
My project cost is 5 crore as of now,
Okay.
and there's a mention of 20 crores. Will there be implication if I have a investment less than 20 crores?
Okay, so Mr. Thakur, he's saying that his investment is 5 crores as of now, but you somewhere mentioned 20 crores. So will that imply here? If I've read out your question correctly, Mr. Kumar.
Yes, I think it's correct.
We got disconnected. So can you repeat the question again, please?
Sure. You can you hear me now?
Yeah, hearing.
So Mr. Thakur, he's asking that his investment is 5 crores as of now, but in your PPT slides, somewhere you mentioned that it needs to be 20 crores. So will that imply here?
So investment criteria is 20 crore. 20 crore is the cumulative investment by the end of 4th year. Investment.
Okay.
20 crore investment requirement is the cumulative criteria that should be by the end of 4th year. But in the first year, it's only 4 crore rupees in case of domestic company.
Okay, so after 1 year, after first year, I can choose not to apply for the next subsequent years, correct?
No, see, after in first year, you have to make the minimum incremental investment of rupees 4 crore. In second year, again, you have to invest minimum 4 crore rupees to arrive at 800 crore rupees. That is the cumulative investment requirement. So in first year, 4 crore, in second year, 4 crore. You can have the more investment. There is no limit on the more investment, but the minimum should be there. The minimum is 4 crore in first year. In second year, it is 8 crore. So you have to invest more 4 crore rupees. Then you can arrive at the 8 crore rupees.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kumar. Do we have any other question coming up? Okay, so we'll be glad to send you a recorded session, recording of the session. And if you have any questions, any doubts, you can always get back to us. I'll be sharing my details. I'll be sharing Mr. Thakur's details with you. So in case if you want to get in touch with us, we'll be happy to connect. Thank you, Mr. Thakur, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rajesh.